It's an esoteric saying which is, as above, so below. The saying allows us to speculate what is occurring above, which is the sky, and below, which is our Earth. As we have entered a new age in our 21st century, with new discovery throughout the universe, and we are paying attention to our Earth, the concept of above and below is indeed interesting, and at times brings forth controversial or debatable topics. I'm Agneta Borstein, and I'm a professional astrologer. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this program, From the Sky to Earth. Today we will explore Uranus and Pluto as they meet again and again. Let's start with Uranus. He was discovered in 1781, and we use him as the father sky. Very important because the sky is changing, and there's a lot in this image that you might see on the screen behind me, where we see the ecliptic, and in that is where we always travel with the planets as they are traveling stars, if you will. So Uranus actually was married, and sometimes he was the son of Gaia, the Mother Earth. And he's important in that aspect of being in the role of the father sky. So let's take a look at some fundamental facts about Uranus. He's the liberator. He entered in Aries in 2011 and will stay there until 2019. There's always two sides to a coin and two sides to a planet. We have challenges. So the challenge would be dictators. They take over. There's a certain part of Uranus that is freedom. Uranus does belong to Aquarius, and in Aries he is strong. So earthquakes we will experience throughout the globe I don't know if it has necessarily increased, but it is earthquakes. Explosion, because there's a certain change suddenly with Uranus. Protests we might have noticed lately, but it's also people need to raise their opinion. And there's a certain restlessness about Uranus. Revolution, as in the last time he was around in an important position, same as now, was 1781 when he was discovered. As we know, there is the French Revolution, there is a birth of United States, 1776, so we have this kind of shift going on today as we speak in March of 2015. So revolution is also associating with Uranus, thunder and hurricane, and certain uncertainty, like expect the unexpected. So the unconventional is very good, but it's also kind of not accepted all the time in society. So we have the two sides of the coin. So the beneficial part of airplanes, I think that's the best discovery of all. Rules art, so that the Uranian type of person can express what they feel, what they want to show. Computer technology, as we have the laptops and all the different aspects to the 21st century. Electricity, because it's that shadow of uncertainty. Inventions, which is great during any time that Uranus shows a strong presence, as it could be, we're looking at a mundane aspect, and you might have, we all have a Uranus in our natural birth charts, but there is a lot of inventions coming forth, as in not only in medical field and the science, we see a lot of new technology coming forth. So liberation is also those people who don't have a voice. Uranus needs to be heard, so there's a liberating feeling in it. And the phones, iPhones, the different technology. Now we just have so many, not just the iPhones, the iPads and so forth, and you know it, we all use them. So use the science and anything that is unique or have something to give to a unique situation. For example, I was very much into the discovery of the Higgs boson, and that was discovered in 2013. That has to do with Uranus. Actually, it was discovered. Follow me, and we will go through some more significant part of when there is new discovery in the universe. So at this point, Uranus is in a fire sign. Aries is always me. Everybody's very important nowadays. They all say their opinion, sometimes on the Facebook, wherever you want to say their opinion, but everybody is important at a time of change. So that's Uranus. We're going to move on to the planet. They meet together in a position, Uranus and Pluto. Pluto is very different from Uranus. They're very strong, both of them. And Pluto is, in our world, it got demoted into a dwarf planet in 2006, but it was discovered in 1930. So on our systems, we have a Pluto in our computer, and I wouldn't know how to take it off. It stays there. So Pluto takes the maiden Persephone and goes underworld. He actually forces her. And in that process, they have to learn how to survive. They take a chicken with them, always a chicken. They have the wheat, hopefully not too much GMO into it. But they also kind of learn how to survive as we see different aspects of the changing world, of crops being destroyed or drought and all that. It's not a negative part of it because there's always the hope. In the process of Pluto, even though he's a harsh reality, and this time in 2008 to 2024, he's in the sign Capricorn. And Capricorn is a very strong sign. The mountain goat is an earth sign. And the challenge will be the atomic power was discovered in the 1930s, sensitive times during those times, but also when we discover a new planet, we kind of don't know what to do with it. And so that would be the same time as the atomic power had been discovered. Corruption is with Pluto in Capricorn, and just in general, the control that Capricorn sometimes do seems to be good at. Government, not just the government is good to have government, but in general with the bosses, they can be a little too hard sometimes, but the control issue sometimes comes up with Pluto in Capricorn, and everybody want to rule somebody. Death comes, but death also is a transition. So death in itself has perhaps we have been exposed to different news. Of course, we have different ways of getting our news in today's society by internet and all the different things. Real estate is interesting that Pluto in Capricorn belongs to, because it's more or less the real estate changes is gambling. There's a control of who owns the houses. Some people lose their houses because of the corruption between real estate and so forth. But we all need a home. So taxes also comes into this kind of combination with Pluto and Capricorn. And we learn that we all have to pay our taxes. But we also find there's a little bit of control in that and changes in that. Whole who's paying taxes, the rich gets richer, poor gets poor, which is also part of society. But it rules secrets. So anytime that there is a possibility of changes when it comes to Pluto in Capricorn, it's also eventually the big corporation as controlling, they do get caught because the secrets can't be secrets. They are usually unfold. And the transformation occur for everybody to change, to go into different levels of change. And change hurts sometimes, but these two planets coming together are very important because they've been together before. So stay with me and you will find out more when they were together before. So the beneficial part of Pluto in Capricorn is, of course, birth. We always have to have the faith. Cleansing occurs because maybe we have to clean the part of us but part of the whole society that has to be cleansed. We do have, if you come back to visit From the Sky to Earth, we have another program about that whole issue about cleansing and the water. It does rule churches, mosques, synagogues, and more the ashram, because religions are changing, but it does rule that part. There is the respect of it, but we have to know that it is beneficial that we still have places of worship. So it's faith, to have faith in the future, to believe that this is a changing society, ever from 2008, and now we're going out of this strong cycle that we're going to find out about more. So it is nuclear energy too, which we need. But we also should be cautious about accidents and all that. Part of revitalization and making sure that we know society and all that shift has, perhaps not in your world, but I have watched the news and still read the paper. There is a lot of changes. So in the subconscious, it's important for us all to realize that we live in important and interesting times. The way that we go back to another image of Pluto going down to the underworld is about him even forcing Persephone down to the underworld, as we see a lot of different forceful images on the TV or in the news. We also have the faith because Ceres is the mother of Persephone, and they do come together every springtime. There is the hope that through Persephone's learning how to survive, how to create new crops. And Ceres, she's an asteroid, but she's the goddess of showing us how to, she rules down to the seeds. She is the goddess of the harvest, and agriculture, and she shows us how the hope of us, how to learn, how to, there's a lot of people having their own vegetable gardens in their backyard. So we learn how to survive and have the hope by knowing springtime is coming soon. So the discovery in the universe also is part of this Uranus-Pluto coming together in this new ways of looking at perhaps planet in a respectful way. And we also find that we have different awareness of Mother Earth, if you will. And in that, the last time they came together, Uranus and Pluto, we might want to look at the history. And also, if you might know your chart, that could be, you have a personal, if there's a personal part of your chart that are hit by these planets, either Aries or Capricorn. Cardinal is always a certain anxiety. We don't know where we're coming. The cardinal, fixed or mutable, is how we divide our 12 zodiac signs into different, almost like energies field. So the cardinal signs in 1930 through 1934 were also in Aries. It goes around Aries to Cancer, and now we have Aries Capricorn, so you have this whole evolvement about cycle. We do study cycles very strong in astrology, and we find that in June 1931, PowerPoints, April, May, September of 32, October and November of 33, and we know that as some intense times that, you know, through World War II wasn't then, but it was the Great Depression, and maybe after Great Depression a war has to happen, and doesn't have to. Hopefully it won't happen again. So then we go back into the 65 and 1966 in the mutable sign of Virgo. And that's a little bit more contemplation because they were on top of each other. And Virgo is about independency. At that point, October 9th, 65, April, May, June, 66, there was just a lot of, there was another war, but of course the Vietnam War was a long war, 1955 through 75. But at one point when the surge come up to people between Uranus, protest about Vietnam, there was also, of course, the new ways of looking at the civil rights movement started. We're celebrating a 50-year anniversary on that. So the masses just take on to that Uranus liberation, and Pluto says we have to change. So we are in a changing time again as they come around, and will always in the future, they always meet again and again. One is not stronger than the other one. They both have their own personality. So let's just take a look at what happened now from June 24th, 2012, and then up to March 16, 2015. There's a lot of different ways to look at the positive, the negative, and I always try to stay neutral. I don't know if you notice I have a little slight accent left from Sweden. But I try to be neutral, but it's still interesting to me. On June 24th, 2012, for 2 years, the Affordable Care Act had been discussed. And on June 24th, the Supreme Court approved that it's legal. And we could assume that it will be resolved by now, but there's millions of people that has now health care, and whether you're against it or not, that's the Uranus and Pluto. And through that, The 2012, in the fall of 2012, it doesn't have to be on September 19th. Doesn't have to be exactly date, but sometimes, of course, it is. We read the papers, something always going on. But we probably all remember when Hurricane Sandy slammed into the Caribbean, Bahamas, and the United States East Coast. And it's just a matter of there's a certain interest of this phenomena at the end of the world, but of course we knew better it wasn't. And then also the May of 2013 to me, April, the Boston Marathon happened, and the terror attack, but also that Higgs boson that I was talking about earlier. There is that plus and minus. We all survive in our own little threshold. We all have a way to find our ways out. There's always that. So these days are just the PowerPoints of finding ways how to survive. In November of 2013, there was, unfortunately, 7,000 were in the typhoon in the Philippines, and that, I guess, has hit again as I speak. April 2014, I think of all the years, 2014 would probably have the most significant time because there was so many different, there was no end of the news, and the good news were that we all will be having our positive thinking how to go into the underworld and be able to express ourselves in new alternative ways, as in yoga in every corner. Nothing wrong with that. So we have this uncertainty throughout 2014. The Ukraine situation got more intense, and also the Malaysia flight just disappeared, just suddenly. Is that from airplane? I had my own speculation about that. We can save that for another time too. And so then when we take December of 2014, USA lifted the cargo against Cuba. And in general, we thought that we do know that it's getting better, and that is great. So now we're standing in the last hit of this cardinal sign, anxiety. Is it getting better? Is the economy getting better? We are seeing a lot of new alternative ways of interacting with not just alternative living, but more whole, healthy way of looking at our world. So we are very fortunate in that process. So right now we have to see if you follow through the current transit of March 16, 2015, just to see how interaction of positive thinking is important in this interaction of Uranus and Pluto. We are going to look at a chart. Why not? That will be important just for the interaction to see. This happened to be the last part of March 16 of 2015. I will point out, maybe, we have here Pluto, that's the symbol of Pluto, and Uranus is over here. They are both in 15 degrees. And it's interesting to see that if you do have a part in your chart that has this interaction, then maybe your life has changed. You've changed jobs, relationships suddenly just change in the stability of it and allowing this to come forth. Just in general, I would like to reinforce that, of course, mundane astrology is when we look at the world at large. Personal astrology is when you sit down with an astrologer and just kind of see the interaction that these planets, the way I present them now, with Uranus and Pluto. And also there is a lot of other aspects too. Let's see if we have this. We can see, for example, the way we would not look at prediction necessarily is more about allowing cycles. So a cycle, as I have tried to relay, is also very important in our own personal lives. So this is a cycle again. Now it's 15 degrees. It started off, of course, with 7, 8 degrees during 2012, and then it goes forward. So even though Uranus will move out of Aries in 2019, and Pluto will continue and doing other things, This is now how we look at a chart for the for you who won't be scared. Astrology is a sign, is a language that we just get very patient with. So here might be a little easier way of looking at how planets just goes around in the ecliptic, and it affects us on subconscious level, but when you are aware of different interaction on your personal level, Uranus and Pluto will be strong, but it does go out now. There is most of the time in the beginning, as we saw 2012, 2013, but I also consider 2014. But now we are going out of this strong cycle. And that would be Uranus-Pluto, now talking a step back, spring of 2016, definitely they out of this uncertainty that we could consider very important, but if we don't look at just political aspects, we look at ecological aspects about Pluto having the faith of that change, and then also spiritual and religious changes. So we look at that shift of saying in our own personal lives that we do find that the next phase is going to be Neptune is stepping into the arena, if you will, because Pluto and Uranus will step back somewhat. And Jupiter is the largest planet in our solar system, will be kind of irritating Neptune. And of course, Neptune is another whole segment that I hope you come back and visit me from the sky to earth as we take practical application into this language of astrology. And Saturn in itself is also it's not a very well-liked planet, even though personally I like it. Saturn belongs to Capricorn, about the involvement of how we take responsibility. Saturn and Jupiter will irritate Neptune. So Pluto and Uranus will step back in its own way. And there is where the quality of the interaction of what maybe we have seen lately will be less. And there is that to the quotation of synthesize this little talk about Uranus and Pluto. Pluto was then demoted, but now he's showing a lot of force, and that shows in our positive way of looking at cycles. History repeats itself, and sometimes we can look at different cycles as in the olden days, Uranus, the father sky, they would, even in some countries like Thailand, they are doing some kind of worship, they're doing a ritual to say thank you. And so the earth and sky, as above so below, has also shown that we can just be more positive by being prepared for these beautiful planets that they talk to us. They are part of us too. That's a medical astrology. So I do thank you for visiting with us today. Especially I want to thank Nutmeg Television for allowing us to have our topics coming to you as a public image. And I also want to thank you to visit From the Sky to Earth. I'm Agneta Borstein, and it's been my pleasure to be with you tonight. Thank you.